Okay, today I want to talk about energy travel, double helix flow, and God's power symbol. Now I've brought this one up because this is easily testable about what I say, that energy travels in a double helix, and that and to show how interlinking waves link together, to explain that so you can check it for yourself, and to show that all of this is actually biblical as well, because the Hebrew symbol of God, meaning God or strength or power, on the left there, is a bull's head, which is, or the same shape that I've drawn there, round circle with two horns coming off it. Okay, so this is easily checkable basically with a cigarette. Now a cigarette is a radiation fire. It pulses energy. There is no flame. It's an electromagnetic radiation fire, and it's giving off an electromagnetic pulse. Now I say that God is electricity and electromagnetism. God is actually energy, and any form of energy, gamma rays, X-rays, whatever kind of rays, EM, electromagnetism, light, you name it, electricity, that is all energy. Everything that we know in the universe as energy, with all these different names, is coming from God, and it's actually all the same energy, just with slightly different wavelengths. So what we're talking about here, coming from a cigarette, a radiation fire, is electromagnetic energy and EM pulse. And all energy, whether it's electromagnetic, heat, any kind of energy, always travels in a double helix. Same as DNA, that's what powers DNA. But it rotates in a double helix. Now in the middle there, I've got smoke rising, and you will see I've got 2.5 circles there. Now what they're based on is the symbol of God on the left there, but it's also what is actually happening in a cigarette. So as you can see, I've got my arrows rising up from both left and right. They cross over and then they go upwards again. One goes up across to the right and up, and one goes up across to the left and up. Then there is a pause, and then there is another electromagnetic pulse. As you can see, I've written in there pulse gap, because that's what it's doing. It pulses and it pulses. Now here's where you get interlinking waves that you can check how they interlink, because here's how I say they're interlinking. Now I have to give you a parable here of what the smoke is doing. So imagine that you have a roll of cloth in front of you. I'm going to be the energy and the cloth is the matter. I'm going to grab the front of the roll, I'm going to throw it out in front of me, so it throws out a rectangle of material. I'm then going to grab the back of the material and I'm going to throw that forward. Now imagine this is all on a conveyor belt rolling away from you, as if I've thrown it and it's still moving. So I throw out one pulse, it drops on to the conveyor belt, which is the speed of matter. When I threw it out, it was at the speed of light, an electromagnetic pulse. Then the energy is in and moving, but now it's moving at the speed of matter on the conveyor belt. I then, at the speed of light, grab hold of the material and throw again and throw it forward. You now have an interlinking wave, and then that conveyor belt will slowly move forward. I grab another piece of the roll and I throw it forward, so it lands on top of the last pulse, and that is another interlinking wave. And that is how you get interlinking waves. So the pulse gap, even though it's there, matter can't move at the speed of light, but energy does. So it throws out the pulse, there's a gap, but the pulse behind it overtakes it because it's suddenly been thrown at the speed of light, and so it overtakes the last part of the pulse. And because energy rolls up, it rolls up into a scroll. You can see this when you just dab a cigarette, you will see it roll up. I'll get to that in a minute. So you've got your pulse gap, which is actually an interlinking wave point, and you see I've got the side view of smoke there, and in the point of every pulse gap there is an interlinking wave. And that's how all atoms interlink their waves. Any electromagnetic wave, that is how it links. It pulses out, a pulse comes from behind and slightly overtakes it, and they both roll up together. Okay, so the process of the pulse, I've written it there, I don't know if it's the same as what I just said. One pulse from a radiation fire will rise, and I've drawn the picture of it. It'll come out of the cigarette, they cross over through each other, going upwards. The leading tips then spin in a circle like a galaxy and suck the rest of the pulse upwards and into the rotating torus. And I've got I1, 2 and 3 there to show you what is happening with the direction of travel. Now the pulse that I'm talking about now from a radiation file, this is from smoke. If you can dab it, you will shake loose one electromagnetic radiation pulse, and you will see that it spins up into an electromagnetic torus, same as a galaxy, but then it will try and climb again afterwards. The two leading tips crash into each other, and they change from the horizontal galaxy motion to another vertical motion, and they kind of push against each other and splat into a flat bullseye. And basically that's my explanation for why the double slit experiment changes from a horizontal motion to a vertical motion, because it's two waves, and when the opposite rotations crash into each other, they go into a flat spin which changes from horizontal to vertical. And then finally I've got that's what happens to a fractal diminishing of the leading tips of any energy flow. I'm believing they're both positive, so that they never touch and they just spin into infinity, which is also why when they push together they don't do anything except go into a flat spin, because they're trying to oppose each other. So they just push against each other, same as pushing your hands together will make your hands go vertical and your arms stay horizontal. So yeah. Oh, and I meant to say as well, yeah, if you do manage to separate one electromagnetic pulse from a cigarette, you just dab it forward and then slowly pull the cigarette back. You'll see Birkeland current filaments are quite evident within the galaxy smoke. You will see rotating bands of energy. It's quite evident. And again, talking about the fractal diminution of the leading tips, if you turn that sideways, that's any cloud that you see just going to thin. That's because it's a rotating cloud that is fractally diminishing its leading tips, and so that's why it spirals off into nothing when you see those roll clouds. So there we go. The symbol of God is an electromagnetic pulse, because God is an energy being. There's my radiation proof of interlinking waves due to a pulse gap, fractal diminishing leads, torus formation with Birkeland currents in it, which are also electric. Yeah, I think that was a good paper today. Thanks very much. My name's Lee, and I'm a Christian.